This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I want to respond as we go from one year to another by talking with you briefly about one of the most important developments of the year 2021. It's related to COVID, but it's not directly about COVID. It's related to our economy, but it's not directly about the economy as a whole. I want to talk to you about the labor movement and what I see as a revival within the labor movement with enormous potential. I'm talking about the strike at Kellogg's, at Nabisco, at John Deere. I'm talking about the wonderful, courageous struggle being waged by the students at Columbia University in New York, demanding from this elite, rich institution the basic recognition of the rights of working people to a decent job and a decent balance between their job and the rest of their lives. And there are many more than I can have time to talk with you about. But this has been a year where the working class is really becoming woke, but in an altogether new way. New for the last 50 years, not new in American history. I'll go more about that in a moment. The labor movement is being shaken every which way. Millions of people have quit their jobs because they're not coming back to the job they left before COVID, before the crash of the economy last year. They're not coming back to that same job. They're coming back to a job that in many cases has been made less attractive, more burdensome. And even if it hasn't, they're not willing to tolerate being treated that way. They've been told they were essential, but they weren't respected as essential workers. They were told they were crucial, but they weren't paid as if they were crucial. They were told that in this fight against COVID, we're all in it together, but they learned that some of us are rich enough to be a lot more in it than the lot of the rest of us. They're angry, and rightfully so. Many have retired, even though they're not sick or they're not that old, but they're not going back either. I understand their anger, and I sympathize with it. But I think a better solution is those strikers. They're not resigning themselves, and many have called this the Great Resignation, all these people quitting. But I like even better those who don't resign themselves to the bad job economy, but who fight it, who demand better, who get together with other working people to make real change happen. And that's why I want to talk to you very briefly about the last time the economy was in as bad trouble as it is now, and the people were angry and depressed as bad as they are now. It was the 1930s. It's called the Great Depression. But working people then, took them a few years after the Depression hit in 1929, but when they got going, wow, did they get going. Led by the CIO, the Congress of Industrial Organizations, which was the labor union movement at that time. Tens of millions of Americans who had never been in a union before joined one. They knew they could get a better deal if they did. And those unions, oh boy, did they do well. They worked together with social movements at the time who had those scary names, Socialist Party, Communist Party, and things like that. And together the unions and those social movements, boy, did they make changes. They forced on the government the Social Security system. That's right, the system that makes sure that when you reach retirement age, you're not thrown away like some useless doll or rag. You are respected. You're given a proper check every month for the rest of your life, so you're not a burden on your children. so you can live your life out. They got that, those workers and those social movements. And they got the first comprehensive unemployment insurance program. And they got the first minimum wage, much higher in terms of its purchasing power then than it is now. And they got 15 million people hired for the government jobs they otherwise would have been unemployed. And so they saved their homes from foreclosure. Don't say that the working class can't get itself together. It can, it could, and it did. True enough, after World War II, much of those gains were whittled away as Republicans and Democrats caved in on the business reaction, because it was business and the rich who had to pay for all of that. That's right. During the Great Depression, the gap between rich and poor narrowed in the United States. Not like today, or better, not like today up until 2021, when the labor movement said, we've had enough. We're going to change this system. It's not going to keep going in the direction that the Republicans and the Democrats seem so comfortable in pursuing. We're not there yet. Inequality is getting worse, not better. But the fight back has begun. And I'm here to tell you it's the most important and the most positive thing to celebrate at this change from one year to the next. This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work. And if you believe videos like this deserve the distribution we put our efforts into maximizing, then partner, please, with us. Share it. Spread it around. And if you can add some support through our website, please do. It'll just make it possible for us to reach even more.